Welcome, low ego action heroes. I'm Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. We are a full service CX and UX consultancy, and this is my Axure 10 Core Skills course. I've been using Axure since February 2011, and I've been teaching it for many, many years. And in fact, I've been one of Axure's recommended trainers since 2014. This course is designed to take you from super Axure newbie or Axure afraid all the way through to confident intermediate. So if you've landed on this one video, there are many, many others. Please check our Axure lessons playlist for a lot more videos about using Axure. The Delta CX YouTube channel has over 500 videos on it as of when I'm recording this in December 2021, and I hope you'll subscribe and join in some of our live streams. I'm live usually 3 or 4 times a week with teaching UX research and design, talking about CX, helping people get into the profession, helping leaders and managers, and of course, don't forget Tuesday, office hours, Ask Me Anything. So subscribe and hang out here. So thanks for being here. Please subscribe and let's jump into that next Axure lesson.
Okay, for our next lesson, we are going to use the Beach Cabanas page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a duplicate of it, actually multiple duplicates of it. And then I'm going to leave Beach Cabanas just for you so that if you would like to download the file and work from my silly pre-made old school web page, you can. Otherwise, press pause, give yourself a few minutes and just kind of quickly wireframe up kind of your standard or stereotypical web page with a bunch of stuff on it. We're going to use this for both the pinned panel lessons and the adaptive views lessons. So I'm going to make a couple of copies for myself so that I can leave the Beach Cabanas one for you. So I'm going to call this pinned 1, and then I'll also do pinned 2 since we're going to learn pinned panels 2 different ways. So pinned 2, and then eventually we will use the same Beach Cabanas page for our adaptive views lesson. All right, so now I'm ready. So Beach Cabanas will be untouched. If you would like to use this, you can download the file, check the description, and you can run from there. So I'm going to close these other ones, and let's focus on our first pinned panel lesson. Now here, we're imagining that this is a longish web page and that there is a header here, and you'll notice the header is pink. Who remembers what that means? It means the header is a component. So over here in components you can see web header. And so if we wanted to change it, if we double clicked on it, we would now be, these are left over from some other ideas I had, but let's knock them out. So basically we would be able to update that component if we wanted to, but again, for the purposes of what we're doing together, this is just fine. So let's think about how we would pin this header in place so that as the page scrolled, it stayed in place. Now that's going to be lesson 1, and then the second half of this lesson is going to be, what if the page scrolls, but after this header scrolls away, a tiny micro version of the header stays, which you also see on certain pages. So for starters, we learned earlier that if you want to have something pinned, you've got to use a dynamic panel. Now I like to use dynamic panels for anything that shows, hides, moves, changes, or is pinned. So we've got to context menu, click on this, and get it in a dynamic panel. I'm going to give it a name. I'll call it header panel. And we can also go over here to pin to browser, and we can get that cooking. We can say pin to browser. It's going to be centered, and it's going to be vertical top, and keep it in the front so that everything scrolls behind it. So let's take a look at that. And here we go. So this should pin into place. Now, whoa, okay, it is pinning in place, but you can see by default, dynamic panels are see-through. So we're going to need to fix that, but this is still a good baby step test. Did yours pin into place with everything scrolling and going behind it? So let's go back to this and let's take a look at what we can do to not have that be the case. So I'm going to, with this dynamic panel selected, come over here to Style and give it a fill color. Now, certainly quite simply, we could say it has a white fill color, which should be F, 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 endless Fs. And we can preview that and see if that solves our problem. That looks a little funky. It looks like these things are not all the exact same size. That's my mistake. So this image is 1033 wide, and this panel is 1030 wide. Okay, so yep. Maybe this needs to be wider. Let's try again. Again, this is why we do our baby step testing. Okay, that looks a little better. If you feel like the scrolling content and the logo are a little bit close, just come on back and make that panel taller for however much space you would like to have. Let's say we add 20 pixels. Refresh. So now it's going to be pinned there and scroll. Now, just for visual fun, let's imagine we don't have a white border. Let's imagine our border is very soft, whatever this color is. I can't even tell. Let's do soft blue today. And I'm also going to check off 100% wide, which we have a previous lesson on, but you'll see what that does as soon as I preview this. So you can see that the top color is not only a background color, but it's 100% wide. Now I made a mistake here on purpose, and let's see what it was and how we'll fix it. Okay, so what was my mistake here and how are we going to fix it? I'm coming back to the panel and I'm going back to the fill color. Now, while that was a color that looked good, what I might have missed, and you could miss this too, especially when grabbing colors from Axure's recents or favorites, is that this isn't just a light blue. This is 10% of a dark blue. So if we went to 100%, then this won't have that see-through quality, which is why we saw the stuff scrolling behind it. So ultimately, we probably want to find that a light blue that we like, or whatever color matches our brand, and make sure it is 100% so that it doesn't have any bit of see-throughness and isn't going to produce that odd result. So now I can scroll this. And let's scroll, here we go. And so now we don't have that weird see-through or overlapping problem. So quite simply, that's how we would pin something to an interface. Same could be true. Let's do really quickly, let's do another one. Let's imagine that we have some sort of shape. I'm just going to drag out this Axure circle because it's a bit of a pre-made shape. And I can get silly with it. You can too. And I'm going to say live chat. And let's pretend that this is also going to be pinned. So I might put this in a dynamic panel, and I might call this chat panel. And of course, I need to pin it to the browser, check it off to turn it on. I might want it to the right, but not exactly right up against the right scroll bar. So let's give that a little bit of margin, see how it looks. And on the bottom, but probably not right on the bottom. Let's give that a little bit of margin and see how it looks. And now we can refresh this. And that's our live chat bug. Now, it doesn't do anything. It's just a circle. But hypothetically, you could then build a whole bunch of things into this that recreated the feeling of the live chat. So, for example, you could have a dynamic panel that is part of this whole thing, where when people click the live chat, they get a live chat. Let's take a look at that just for fun. I'm going to go into this state of the panel. And I'm going to imagine what if I'm just going to show a box, because if I can show a box, then you can assume that we are going to be able to show, let's move this around a little bit, we're going to be able to show some sort of live chat thing. So the box could always have a fake live chat in it. It'd be really hard to create a real one in Axure, but you know, we could try to fake it out. So let's say that we've got this. This would technically be the other state. So let's duplicate this. We could have one state have everything in place. So we could call this chat open. And maybe one state doesn't have this, and it's just the chat bug. And we could call this chat closed. And this would be one of those times where I might build right on the dynamic panel and say, if people click on the panel, toggle it open and closed, because I'm not going to have people actually use the live chat. But if you were, then you wouldn't use the toggle. But just for super speed's sake, let's say if people click on the panel, we're going to set the panel state of this widget to whatever is next and wrap. And I'm not going to worry about animations. I'm just going super easy cheesy right now. So we've got the live chat, and then we've got, hi, you're chatting with Debbie. What's your problem? You know, so again, if you wanted to try to build that out more fully, you could, but you can see, and again, you would need something here that would close it. I have clicking on the live channel, live chat closing it. You might need some people, some chat companies put like an X up here to close it out. You would, of course, need to add that into your dynamic panel state for that to exist and for that to work. So there would be, you'd move all these down, you'd put an X up here, and the X would send everybody back to this state of the panel. So that's another example of how you might use a pinned panel. And now let's take a look at another example using our pinned to page, where we're going to do a variation of the header. Let's get out of this web header guy. So I'm going to open up pinned to. Now let's imagine that this page scrolls normally, but once my header scrolls away, I want a small micro header to be what sticks to the top. And the trick in Axure is not pinning this and trying to make some variation of it or whatever. The trick is actually a simple magician's trick. This page scrolls normally, but once you scroll down a certain amount, and we'll decide that number later, but that's going to be part of this lesson. Once you scroll down a certain amount, just show a pinned header. It's a sneaky trick. Let me drag out a dynamic panel. Let me move it to 0, 0. And let me make it the width of what we're dealing with, which we found bizarrely was like 1303. What was that again? No, it was 1033. I found that I used some very strange number. Feel free to use better numbers than mine. These pinned mini headers are sometimes not very tall, so I'm going to go with 50. And I'm going to give it a name. Let's call it mini header panel. Okay, and let's go into it and design it. So I'm double clicking. I'm going to view all to isolate it, scrolling around. And let's imagine that in the mini view, we have a micro company logo. And again, you can make that whatever size you want. I'm just playing around right now. We could imagine that there is going to be some sort of pinned call to action, which can sometimes be a good way to go. So let's imagine this is some sort of CTA. And then if there were a couple of important things we wanted to stay, like some people like their customer service or sales phone number to stay up there, you can certainly have some common some important information or your most important links, or you could have your entire navigation structure if you want. So again, this can be anything you want. The goal is to show you the technique, and you can go with it wherever you want. So I can just imagine that this is info or nav. We'll just leave that there, and you can build whatever you like based on where your designs are going. So let's imagine that's what everybody will see when this gets pinned. Now, by default, and probably some sort of login button if we have a system that requires logging in. But again, I'm just blowing through this to show you the technique. You can worry about what's inside that panel. By default, people can't see it. So I'm going to give it the crossed out eyeball, but we still have to go into style and teach Axure it is pinned. So we're going to say pin to browser, center, top, keep in front. That's usually the best for headers. And I'm going to also very quickly give it that 100% wide and some sort of background color, maybe our new blue, which is 100% here, so that's going to be good. It's not see-through. So let's say we've got that. We can baby step test this if we want. But we're not going to see much yet because that panel is pinned and it's hidden, more importantly. So if you're seeing it, you need to remember to go and hide it. Now we're going to need to write the interaction that tells Axure when to show this and when to hide this. Now, whenever you're thinking when or if, you're probably thinking conditions. So ultimately, we're going to write two cases, and we're going to have conditions for at least one of them. We could write the second one for practice, but this is binary. And the what's going to work here is, and again, dream of what you wish Axure could look for you, and chances are there's a way to do it. So, hey Axure, can you tell me how far down the page someone has scrolled? If they have scrolled past y equals 100, I think I want to show this thing. And if they've scrolled less than y equals 100, I don't think I want to show this thing. Okay, so we can definitely do that. And this interaction would happen at the page level because it has to do with the page scrolling. So click away from all the widgets so that you see something about page over here. Come over to interactions and let's build a page interaction. Now look down here. You've got window scrolled up, window scrolled down, and window scrolled. Now, I've certainly built on window scrolled up and window scrolled down when you had things that you only wanted to happen because people were scrolling up but not scrolling down. But in this case, we don't care if they're scrolling up or down. We want to know how far down they've scrolled. So the motion is less important than the number, which Axure knows behind the scenes, so don't worry, you're not going to have to guess it. We want the number of how far they've scrolled, and the direction doesn't matter. So we're going to write on window scrolled, and we're going to say, hey Axure, when the window has scrolled a certain amount, which will be in our condition, show the mini panel. Maybe it gets a dramatic fade in. Now, even though we haven't told Axure how much and when to do this, we can still baby step test it, because if we refresh, we should find that as soon as we scroll 1 pixel, Axure goes, oh, the window scrolled. You must want me to show this panel. So you can do that and just test that your panel comes up, because if you haven't written that correctly, you're not going to be happy with the future steps. So good moment for baby step testing. Check that at the page level, when the window scrolls, we are showing the mini header, and I've used a fade. Now I'm going to add a condition because I don't want Axure to show this header the moment 1 pixel has scrolled. I want it to be at least 100 because that's where my header happens to end. So once this header has scrolled off the screen, let's show people the other one. So 100 pixels down. I'm just going to call it that to remind myself. Now, the condition here is a little tricky, and there's a common mistake that I see here. So let's stop and think about this. We definitely need to think about some sort of number, and we need to think about comparing a number to our 100. So let's see, it's not in a variable and it's not really on a widget. Let's see if the text value will work here. And we know that the number we want to compare to is 100. And now let's show you the behind the scenes Axure function that will tell us how far down people have scrolled. Now we came here before to look at our variables, but if we keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling, we'll see there's an area called window. Now there's also an area called page, But you'll see the only thing there is page name. That doesn't help us. We're really talking about the window. Scroll X is have people scrolled left and right in the entire browser window, and scroll Y is have they scrolled up or down, or how far down the page. So this will give us a positive number, a Y value, where if no scrolling has happened, we're at 0. And if they've scrolled all the way down the page, it could be hundreds or thousands of pixels. So now we're asking Axure, hey Axure, check window scroll Y. Does it equal 100? This is actually a mistake, but this is a common mistake. Who knows why equals is the wrong choice? Equals is the wrong choice because Axure is a good robot and does exactly what you say. If you say that this top header is only shown when people have scrolled equals exactly 100 pixels, then this header will appear at 100 pixels and will disappear at 101 pixels because you said it has to be exactly this number. Ah, you're thinking, aha, you got me there. Right, so in reality, we want greater than or equals. We want to make sure that once people hit 100 and as they continue scrolling down the page and that Y number gets larger, this thing is still shown. And we can baby step test that we wrote this correctly because maybe we didn't. We've got something to fix, but let's give it a try. For me, this means since my logo is 100 pixels tall, as soon as it has scrolled out of sight, my mini header should appear. So let's give it a try. There we go. So this is one of those cool examples in Axure where by having Axure know something behind the scenes and writing a condition that checks on that with a number that we've decided, we have good control over this. But notice we haven't written the other case because I scrolled back up and this thing didn't go away. Make sure that yours is showing up, and if it's not, double check that you did if window scroll Y is greater than or equals 100 or whatever your number is. Don't do equals. That's going to mess you up every time. So there's another possibility here, which is that we have to hide this. That means we need a whole separate case. So what if I want to hide the mini header? Well, again, this is one of those cases where I could write no condition and it would really be okay. Why? Because these are binary. Either we're greater than and equal to 100, or we're not. So either this, and I'll run this condition, or else this, and I run another condition. These are binary. Only one of these can be true at a time, and one or the other will be true. But if we wanted to practice writing our condition, this would be, value, text value, of window scroll Y. And notice every time I'm clicking variable or function and I'm scrolling down and I'm grabbing it. But if you're starting to get to know Axure better, you can just type it. You don't have to keep coming in this window. I can say bracket, bracket, window dot scroll Y, bracket, bracket, is less than 100. Make sure you've got no overlap in that condition. You don't want this one to be less than or equal and the other one is less than or equal, because that then Axure will, or greater than or equal, because then they both equal 100 at some point and Axure will be confused. So now we can say what happens, and what happens would be that the mini panel gets hidden, maybe with a dramatic fade. So again, let's eyeball this and think through it. If the vertical window scroll is greater than or equal to 100 pixels, show our mini header panel. Or else, if the vertical window scroll is less than 100 pixels, hide the mini header panel. That should work. Let's try it out. So scrolling, 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 there it is, and it should continue and not go away like a bolt of lightning. And when I scroll back up, it should fade out. Yeah, that looked great. And again, the visual design could be better, but it is functioning. So now you've taken a look at two different ways to pin a header, as well as a quick way to pin a sort of chat bug, or it could be like an Android action button, things like that. This is how you would do it with this pinning approach. I think that's it for this lesson, so I'll see you in the next one.